Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we would be covering the topic contract of indemnity. I will try to make this topic simple and understandable for you all. So by the end of this video, if you find it useful, do hit the like button and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. I usually upload videos related to finance, banking, mutual fund, loans, etc. Now let's get started with this one. So before getting on to contract of indemnity, you must understand the meaning of indemnity. Indemnity means protection against damage or loss, especially in the form of a promise to pay for any loss that occurs. A little confusing? I'll make this simple for you. In one sentence, you can say as financial protection against any damage or loss. I'll be repeating financial protection against any damage or loss. So exactly, indemnity means providing financial protection in case if there is any damage or loss. And who is making this promise? There is one party involved who is named as indemnifier, and he is the one who is making this promise to another party that in case if you are facing any uncertain event which is causing financial burden, loss or damage, I'll be paying you the financial coverage. Now the best example to understand indemnity is the insurance contracts. So what exactly happens if you are taking any insurance policy? When you are taking an insurance policy, the insurance company or the insurer promises you that in case if any particular uncertain event occurs and there would be a financial loss, the insurance company or the insurer will be providing you a lump sum amount which would be covering your financial loss. Now, this is a contract of indemnity where the insurance company is acting as an indemnifier because the insurer or the insurance company is making you promise that he or she would be providing you the financial coverage for any loss that occurs. Obviously, that would be according to the terms and conditions related to the policy, whatever you are taking. It can be fire insurance, vehicle insurance, etc. So it would be related to the terms and agreement. But what exactly is happening that a contract is being formed between you, the policy holder, and the insurance company, where the insurance company is making the promise to provide you, to compensate you for any financial loss that occurs according to the policy's terms and conditions, and you are the one who would be getting the financial amount or the lump sum amount for the loss that has been occurred, for the damage that has been occurred in terms of the financial burden on your family. So this is how the contract of indemnity is formed. There is an indemnifier, there is an indemnity holder. Okay, and insurance contracts are the best to understand this. Now, when I say that insurance contracts, it does not really mean that the contract of indemnity is only applicable in insurance companies. It can be applicable in different situations, different institutions. So we will be taking another examples as well to understand this. But before that, let's understand contract of indemnity. Till now, we understand what does indemnity mean. So indemnity meant financial protection against any damage or loss. Now coming to contract of indemnity. So this is covered under section 124 of Indian Contract Act. Let's read it once. According to section 124 of Indian Contract Act 1872, a contract by which one party promises to save the other from loss caused to him by the conduct of the promisor himself or by the conduct of any other person. So what exactly is happening in this contract of indemnity? There is one party who is making promise to another party to save from loss. Now we are talking about monetary or financial losses. Okay, so there is a party making the promise, there is another party who would be suffering the loss. And this is how the contract of indemnity is being formed. Now that loss or damage could be by the promisor himself, or it can be by any third party as well. We will try to understand this with another example. But before getting into that, let's come to the parties to the contract of indemnity. We already discussed about this, but again, to keep this in focus, indemnifier is one who promises to bear the loss. So, who is the indemnifier? Indemnifier is the party making the promise. Okay, so in our example of insurance contract, insurance companies or insurers are the indemnifier because they are making the promise to bear the loss. Indemnified or indemnity holder is the one whose loss is being covered or compensated. So again, getting on to our example of insurance contract, you as a policy holder, you would be defined as the indemnified or the indemnity holder in that whole contract of indemnity. So one who is making promise is indemnifier, one whose loss is being covered is the indemnity holder or the indemnified. Rights of indemnity holder. Okay, so I said that I'll be giving you another example. Now, suppose there is a simple transaction happening between buyer and the seller. Now, both buyer and seller, they don't trust each other, and buyer says that he will be making the payment only once the good has been supplied to him. Okay, a simple trade transaction where buyer is saying that he will be making the payment only once he get the goods supplied by the seller. But seller here does not trust buyer that maybe buyer will be receiving the good and not be making the payment. In this case, third party comes into picture who is referred as indemnifier. Now that third party could be bank acting as a guarantee. So that third party is referred as indemnifier. Now that third party will say that I know the buyer, he will be making the payment, and even if he does not make the payment, I will bear the loss and I will be paying on his behalf. So what exactly is happening now? The indemnifier is ready to compensate for the loss to the seller that will be caused by the buyer in case the buyer refuses to make the payment. So indemnifier is here taking the financial burden. So a contract will be formed between the seller and the indemnifier. Indemnifier makes the promise that if buyer does not make you payment for your goods, I will be making you the payment. So a simple trade transaction, we can also understand the contract of indemnity through this example. Now, rights of indemnity holder. An indemnity holder holds the right to sue the promisor for specific performance if the liability incurred is absolute and contract of indemnity covers it. Indemnity holder is also entitled to recover from the indemnifier all damages, cost, or sums involved in legal suits in respect of the promisor not adhering to his promise as per contract. Now, in this case, the contract is being formed between the indemnifier and the indemnity holder. So, our trade transaction, we saw that the seller and the indemnifier, there was a contract. Buyer wasn't involved. So, what happened? Let's understand this. Buyer did not make the payment. Now the indemnifier, as per the contract, will have to make the payment to the seller because he promised. What if the indemnifier refuses to make the payment? So now the seller will be left with the only option to get into the legal case and file a suit against the indemnifier because now the indemnifier is not keeping up with his promise. He made the promise to make the payment on the behalf of the buyer and now he is refusing to make the payment. So seller is going through the legal seller will file a suit against the indemnifier and the whole legal proceedings will be involved. Now, because the indemnity holder or the seller in our example is entitled to recover, will be entitled to recover all the damages, the cost or the sum. Obviously, because a legal proceeding is going on, there will be cost involved. There will be cost involved in filing a suit already the seller has lost his payment. So there are the damages that has occurred, the cost that has been involved, the time that is being wasted, and all these things. So indemnity holder will be having the right to claim that amount through the legal proceedings if the promisor refuses to act as per the contract. So, whenever the contract of indemnity is formed, there is indemnifier who has made certain promise to the indemnity holder, and in case if the indemnifier refuses to act as per the contract, indemnity holder is having the right to sue against the indemnifier, and for all the cost that has involved in all this procedure, he can claim that amount as well. Another example mentioned over here is banks obtaining indemnity from customer while issuing duplicate demand draft or fixed deposit receipt. So as I said, indemnity or contract of indemnity can be in different situations through different institutions. So it's not just one particular thing. You can see this contract being formed in different situations. So even in case of bank, now let's understand this example. So suppose there is a customer to whom bank has issued a demand draft. Now that customer come back again to the bank and says that he has somehow lost his demand draft. Now the customer wants bank to issue a duplicate demand draft of the same amount. Here the bank is having that risk. What happens if the customer is making a false statement and he gets two demand drafts issued of the same amount and will be claiming double the amount? So there is risk involved. So in this case, what happened? Banks obtain indemnity from the customer. So a contract of indemnity will be formed between bank and the customer, where the customer will have to mention that he has lost his demand draft and now he has asked the bank to issue a duplicate demand draft and is not making any false statement, will not be doing any wrongful action. So a contract of indemnity here has been formed. And also in that contract, it will be mentioned that in any case, if the customer is found doing any wrong action, or if there is duplicacy in the amount that is being utilized from the demand draft, if there is any duplicacy, the customer will be responsible. So here the customer is being made responsible and for the damage if any occurs to the bank. So in this case, what happens? The customer is the indemnifier, because the customer is now will be taking the responsibility of any loss that will be occurred to the bank in case of the duplicacy of demand draft if the amount is claimed double times. So bank over here is acting as indemnity holder, customer over here is acting as indemnifier. And in this contract of indemnity, it is being mentioned that customer will be bearing the loss if any uncertain event occurs. Bank will not be responsible. Insurance contracts are also an example of indemnity. We already discussed a lot about it. So I hope this video was useful and now you understand better about contract of indemnity. Thank you for watching.